Hi, my name is Daniela and I'm going to talk about the characteristics of living things. There are 8 characteristics of living things, and first I'm going to talk about organization. Organization is characterized by being in levels in which the lower ones give substance to the superiors, and nothing can exist or function without this complex organization. The levels are atoms, molecules, organelles, cell, tissue, organ system, individuals. Genetic code. Genetic code is a sequence of nitrogenous bases that are combined to produce words in a language understandable to all living beings, so it's considered as universal. Response to stimuli comes from external and internal environment, such as light, temperature, sound, and chemical substances, among others. Homeostasis, set of regulation phenomena that lead to the conservation of steadiness in the composition and properties of the internal environment of an organism. Metabolism is the obtaining and using energy. Living beings use energy to maintain homeostasis and life. That means they must take components from their external environment. Growth is the increased volume and implies the incorporation of new biomolecules into the organism. Reproduction is to perpetuate species. The asexual reproduction is when descendants are genetically identical to its progenitor. There is just one parent. Sexual reproduction is the fertilization of 2 different cells, the sperm and the egg. New genetic material, and there are 2 parents involved. Then there is the parasexual reproduction. There are 3 different kinds: conjugation, transduction, and transformation. Adaptation and evolution is for surviving.
Historical evidence points to Zacharias Janssen as the most likely inventor, since he worked with his father and both were engaged in making glasses. Years later, Anton van Leeuwenhoek developed a new technique to manufacture lenses that allowed him to observe samples with magnifications up to 200 times. He published his results in 1684. Leeuwenhoek kept secret his manufacturing technique, but Royal Society published everything he observed with his little microscope. Although the research continued for many years, it was not until 1830, almost 2 centuries after the observations of Hooke and Leeuwenhoek, that Theodor Schwann and Matthias Schleiden proposed what later became the first postulate of the cell theory. Robert Hooke published the observations he made with the microscope he created in 1665, and the cell theory consists of 4 important things. Number 1, the cell is the morphological and structural unit of all living beings. In other words, all living beings are made up of cells and produce these cells generate. Number 2, omnicellula ex cellula, which means every cell comes from a pre-existing one. Number 3, the cell is a physiological unit of life. All vital functions take place within the cell, and only one is enough to generate life. And number 4, the cell contains the hereditary information for the control of its development, growth, reproduction, and to transmit that information to the next generation.
Cells are the basic building blocks of all living things. The human body is composed of trillions of cells. They provide structure for the body, taking nutrients from food, convert those nutrients into energy, and carry out specialized functions. Cells also contain the body hereditary material and can make copies of themselves. Cells have many parts, each with a different function. Some of these parts, called organelles, are specialized structures that perform central tasks within the cell. The parts of the cells are: the cytoplasm is made up of a jelly liquid fluid and other structures that surround the nucleus. The cytoskeleton is a network of long fibers that make up the cell's structural framework. The cytoskeleton has several functions, including determining shape, participating in cell division, and allowing cells to move. Endoplasmic reticulum, then this organelle helps process created by the cells. The Golgi apparatus packages molecules by processing by the endoplasmic reticulum to be transported out of the cell. Lysosome and peroxisomes. These organelles are the circling center of the cell. The mitochondria are complex organelles that convert energy from fluid into a form that cell can use. They have their own genetic material separate from DNA in the nucleus. The nucleus serves as the cell's command center, sending directions to the cell to grow, mature, divide, or die. It also has DNA. Plasma membrane is the outer lining of the cell. It separates the cell from its environment and allows material to enter and leave the cell. The ribosomes are organelles that process the cell genetic instructions to create proteins. The differences of the plant cell and animal cell. There are many differences of plant cell and animal cell, but the main ones are these ones. The plant cell have a cell wall in addition to the cell membrane, while animal cells only have a surrounding membrane. This allows plants to have a more rigid shape so they can grow without collapsing. The plant cell have organelles called chloroplasts, that these chloroplasts contain chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is a pigment which allows the plant to absorb light energy from the sun to make food for itself. Animals gain energy through metabolism, so they do not need chloroplasts.
Everything in our body is finely regulated by mechanisms that allow us to maintain homeostasis, and therefore we have health. A disease is the loss of balance and homeostasis. Since a human being is born and with the passage of time he perceives a series of changes in his body, emotions, and social needs. We have tried to define and classify those changes in order to face them and give them an answer in our daily lives. Currently, health is affected by industrialization and the acceleration of the pace of life. The human being becomes the leading actor in regards to his health. He is the architect of riches of his country, the driving force of scientific and technological progress, as well as a fundamental piece in the productive forces, all with the aim to improve life condition. With the development of science and in order to understand the role of the human being in his health, it was possible to pinpoint the factor that influenced the preservation of health or the appearance of the illness. These factors included the public health actions, the care of environment, human genetics, and the lifestyle. The disease, on the other hand, is related to abnormal behaviors that help explore the emotional disturbances of a person. To determine if an individual has mental health or not, we can start from the criteria or mental states, which have three origins. One is social, which has to do with the contact with specific groups that demand specific behavior guidelines to their members, which may be inappropriate. Another criterion is the organic one. Infections, vitamin deficiencies, defects, or injuries in the cerebral structure enter in this criterion. Finally, we have the psychological criterion, which assesses the behavior in order to measure the emotional and mental states of a person to improve life condition.
Nutrition is the set of biological, physiological, and sociological processes involved in obtaining, assimilating, and metabolizing nutrients for the organism. Feeding in adolescence and nutrition play a significant role in adolescence or puberty since they allow growth, development, and maturation of the individual. In this lapse of time, the energy increases due to growth, sexual maturity, and increase in height and weight. The accumulation of skeletal mass changes in the composition of fat and muscle mass. The development of these processes implies important important changes in the needs of energy and nutrients. The use of some drugs, both legal and illegal, has a decisive influence in alimentary behavior and nutritional situation of individuals. The amount of energy that each person requires varies according to sex, physical activity, the speed of growth, the amount of fat and muscle, among other factors. This energy is measured in units of heat known as calories. Given the importance of nutrition in adequate intake of energy and nutrients, it is necessary that teenagers eat according to their needs and avoid developing health problems. One way to achieve this is by trying to develop good eating habits. Diet is a set of foods and dishes that are daily consumed, regardless of whether they are many, few, adequate, or inadequate.
The digestive system is the one that is in charge of the process of digestion, and it is fascinating and complex, one that takes the food we place in our mouth and turns into energy and waste products. This process takes place in the gastrointestinal tract, a long connected tubular structure that starts with the mouth and ends with the anus. The food is propelled forward within the system, altered by enzymes and hormones, into usable particles and absorbed along the way. Other organs that support the digestive process are the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. The time it takes for food to travel from entering the mouth to be excreted and waste is around 30 to 40 hours. Its main parts are the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, small intestine, colon, rectum, and the anus. To achieve the goal of providing energy and nutrients to the body, 6 major functions take place in the digestive system: ingestion, secretion, mixing, and movement. The excretory system is a system of an organism's body that performs the function of excretion. It is responsible for the elimination of wastes produced by homeostasis. There are several parts of the body that are involved in this process, such as sweat glands, the liver, the lungs, and the kidney system. Every human has 2 kidneys. Each kidney is made up of 3 sections: the renal cortex, the renal medulla, and the renal pelvis. The blood arrives at the kidney via the renal artery, which splits into many afferent arterioles. These arterioles go to the Bowman's capsule of nephrons, where the wastes are taken out of the blood by pressure filtration. Peritubular capillaries also surround the nephron, so substances can be taken in and out the blood. The renal cortex is the outer layer of the kidney, and the medulla is the inner layer of the kidney. The renal pelvis takes urine away from the kidney via the ureter. Both of the ureters lead the urine into the body-only urinary bladder, which expands and sends nerve impulse when full. From there, urine is expelled through urethra and out of the body.
Now we're going to talk about the respiratory system. The respiratory system consists in the exchange of gases between carbon dioxide and oxygen, making possible their breathing action. It all starts in the nose nostrils and passes directly to the larynx, where the voice is produced. Then it passes to the pharynx and trachea, making it all the way down to the bronchi and then passing through the bronchioles. There are several diseases like pulmonary tuberculosis, emphysema, bronchitis, lung cancer, and asthma. These are most common produced by some bacteria that enters to your lungs, and then they develop and produce the disease.